listening to Republic Broadcasting Network because you can handle the truth.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero, because World War III is a really bad idea. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
And aloha, America. Welcome to our show today. It's Friday, April 24th, 2020. Thank goodness it's Friday. Thank goodness it's Friday. Thank goodness it's Friday. We have a lot to talk about today. The phone lines are open, 800-313-9443. That's 800-313-9443. Mike is in our control room, twiddling the dials, keeping us out of trouble, and ready to put you on the air with your comments, questions, and opinions. Speaking of trying to keep out of trouble, Trump needs to stop going off script because he can say some things which seem innocuous on the face of it, but quickly can be turned against him. And basically, the latest one that everybody's jumping on is the claim, and I said, emphasize this is only a claim, that Trump suggested injecting disinfectant to cure coronavirus. Now, that's not exactly what he said. He was talking about this report about disinfectants, disinfecting surfaces and stuff, and he just sort of mused, you know, would it be possible to do something similar for people? Which I guess is a legitimate question. But of course, everybody jumped on it and said, you know, oh my goodness, he's telling people to inject themselves with Clorox and Lysol and all the rest of that stuff. And of course, the manufacturers of those products are already out there saying, no, you can't do that. That would be really dumb thing. And they're trying to basically tarnish Trump with that. Now, in defense of Trump, all he said was disinfectant. And alcohol is a disinfectant. So I would be willing to offer myself as a test subject for an experiment to infuse my body with vodka, high quality scotch, or even the local moonshine. See if I get the coronavirus or not. So anything for the name of science. What can I tell you here? Now, over in France, you're going to love this one. They noticed that smokers are underrepresented among the coronavirus patients by quite a wide margin. And so French researchers are now starting to give nicotine patches to coronavirus patients and frontline workers, because there's got to be an explanation for the lower rates of infection. And they're saying it's either the nicotine is preventing the infection or it prevents the body from overreacting to the infection, which is what causes the lethality, the cytokine storms. So, I mean, talk about an upside down world. We can walk into a bank wearing a mask and nobody gets upset. And now the smokers and drinkers are the healthiest ones among us. Just think about that one for a little while. Okay, so moving right along here. Apparently, Chris Cuomo's wife, Christina, went out there on Twitter. Actually, she's got a lifestyle blog and said she poured half a cup of Clorox in her bath twice a week to help cure her coronavirus. Now, magazine editor Christina Cuomo shared that the bleach is technically salt, which it isn't. And she used it to combat the radiation and metals in my system. Now, this, of course, is in direct contrast to warnings given by Clorox itself that contact with the skin should be avoided. By the way, is it just me or is all the talking heads that are coming down with coronavirus working for CNN? Now, right now, there's a big brouhaha regarding Georgia, and Governor Brian Kemp has reopened some of the state's businesses, which a lot of people think are not essential, like bowling alleys, beauty parlors. And the mayor of Atlanta is slamming the governor, saying it's an irresponsible decision, says he's sacrificing lives for the sake of the economy. Trump strongly disagrees with Georgia opening some facilities. I don't know, I'm ready to hop in the car and drive over there and get a haircut. Now, there's been a recent study published in The Lancet suggesting that the real number of COVID-19 cases in China might be 4 times higher than has been publicly stated. Now, according to the Hong Kong researchers who did the study, the discrepancy may be due to evolving definitions throughout the pandemic of what China's National Health Commission considered a confirmed case. And if you'll remember, partway through monitoring China's COVID cases, that was that huge jump in the number of cases because they changed the definitions. So Bill Gates is still out there pushing immunity passports and tech-enabled surveillance to combat COVID. And of course, a vaccine, always a vaccine. Ooh, he loves those vaccines. Anyway, CDC is still wiping the egg off its face because those first test kits they put out actually were tainted with the coronavirus. And so they were putting out a lot of false positives. And they're saying that part of the problem was with a negative control. That is a part of the test meant to be free of any trace of the coronavirus as a critical reference for confirming the test was working properly overall. That's what happens when you fast track stuff and you rush stuff and it's not thought all the way through. You forget important things like a control, like a negative control. Over in Michigan, Governor Gretchen Whitmer was very upset over a demonstration outside her home last Thursday. And that was the same day that news broke Whitmer plans to extend the state's virus stay-at-home order until May 15th, which she came on out and said it was in response to the protests. I'm going to punish the protesters. How dare you? So protesters are not happy about that, but now it looks like the legislature may strip the governor of reopening powers, basically say this decision will be made by the legislative body. So we'll see what happens there. California has now banned protests on state property after a large shutdown protest against Governor Newsom. So Operation Gridlock came to California's capital in Sacramento. Hundreds of demonstrators demanded data over dictators and freedom, not Newsom. And despite having issued the permit to the protesters, the California Highway Patrol, citing some demonstrators' decision to violate social distancing, announced Wednesday that they'll no longer issue permits for any protests at any state properties, including the Capitol. A decision that effectively bans residents from exercising their First Amendment protected right to peacefully protest on state property. The boot is coming down, as they say. All righty. Now, even though cruise lines have suspended their operations, there's another outbreak aboard a cruise ship. This cruise ship has no passengers on it, but it's an Italian cruise ship docked at Nagasaki for repairs. And the crew is still living on board the ship. And 48 crew members have now tested positive for coronavirus. The ship is called the Costa Atlantica. It's been docked since January 29th. 623 crew members are still living on board. No passengers here. Okay. A study of 318 outbreaks in China found transmission occurred out of doors in only one. Now that's significant because part of what Trump came out with was this study by Homeland Security saying that sunlight kills the coronavirus. And if you're outdoors, social distancing or not, the sunlight's going to kill the virus. Ultraviolet light will kill the virus. You can't get ultraviolet light inside you. This is going to be a boom for the tanning salons, I'll bet you. But apparently they found transmission occurring out of doors in only one case out of 318, and that is very, very significant. All right, Virginia protesters demand the reopening of the state, but no one sees it because of King Zuckerberg, who's out there deciding on your behalf what you can see and what you can't see. Illinois has extended their stay-at-home through May, maybe into June. Now, a while back, New York put out this disturbing do not resuscitate order. And apparently emergency responders aren't complying. They're refusing. And so as a result, New York has now rescinded the DNR order. I thought it was kind of a dumb thing for them to do in the first place here. Joe Biden is out there claiming that Trump will try to postpone the presidential election because of COVID-19. I don't think so. I think they want this thing to go away as quickly as it can without being very obvious that there was an overreaction to begin with. But apparently, Joe Biden said during a virtual fundraiser Thursday evening that he believes his Republican opponent will try to postpone the November election. I don't know. Joe, I don't know. All right. In the international news here, Turkey is condemning the Israeli plan to annex the occupied West Bank. And Turkey has called it an extremely dangerous mindset aimed at extorting occupied Palestinian lands. The spokesman of the foreign ministry in Ankara, Hami Aksoy, made his comment in a written statement issued today. We believe that such grave steps, which would undermine international law and wound the common conscience of humanity, would not be accepted or supported by any member of the international community who has a sense of justice and responsibility. Now, this relates to the fact that the new joint government of Gantz and Netanyahu says that in July, starting in July, they're going to start annexing, which is diplomatic speak for stealing, sections of the West Bank. Now, the European Union had issued a warning that Israel would suffer consequences if it moves to annex more occupied West Bank land. They've apparently backed off of that. Pardon me. Meanwhile, over in Syria, they've issued a declaration that liberating the Golan Heights is a priority. They want it back, especially now that they found all that oil and gas underneath it. But apparently the territory was seized from Syria toward the end of the Six-Day War and officially annexed in 1981. The United Nations, under pressure by some permanent members of the Security Council, continues to fail to put its resolutions relevant to ending the Israeli occupation of the Arab lands into effect, particularly resolutions number 242, 338, and 497. Yeah, I wonder who vetoed those. Okay, there is a veterans group, and they call themselves Win Without War, and their executive director, Stephen Miles, is out there basically saying, demanding that there be no more money spent for the Pentagon's wasteful war machine, saying that what has happened in this country is very obvious. All the money was spent for weapons and war in all these countries, and domestic resources that could have helped the nation respond to coronavirus have been chronically underfunded. So they sent this message to the congressional leadership. It was signed by over 60 different organizations. They're saying, you know, no more money for war. We've got to fix the problems here at home. And they're absolutely right. They're absolutely right. All right, last night, the House of Representatives finally passed their version of the Emergency Small Business Loan Extension Program. Pelosi stalled out for over a week, giving late night interviews while sitting at home eating gourmet ice cream. And then she turned around and tried to say it was the GOP that was holding everything up. But it passed. Trump signed it just a couple of hours ago, so that is now going into effect. So, question coming out of Investment Watch blog: how long can Saudi Arabia and Russia survive in a world of $20 oil? Meanwhile, the Saudis have turned on America. They're sending a flotilla of tankers full of cheap oil to sink U.S. shale and oil. There are places in this country right now where gasoline is less than $1 per gallon. Now, I'm old enough to remember when gas was like 25 cents a gallon, but I've under $1 per gallon, haven't seen that in a while. Have not seen that in a while at all. Oh, all righty. 550 illegal boat migrants have landed in Great Britain during the Wuhan virus lockdown. And they basically just get into the boats on France, sail across the English Channel, or row across the English Channel. And at least 550 boat migrants have made the trip since the two countries imposed their nationwide lockdowns roughly 1 month ago to fight the spread of the coronavirus. Now, maybe they should have gone to Oregon instead. A little bit more of a trip, understandably. But the Oregon Emergency Board has approved $10 million for illegal aliens from the COVID aid funding. Now, the Joint Emergency Board in Oregon convened to basically carve off a chunk of this cash for the illegal immigrants. The board members are 13 Democrats to 7 Republicans. They voted down funding for rural hospitals. But the illegal immigrants get cash handouts. I'm absolutely appalled at that. They're not even supposed to be here. If they want to be U.S. citizens, there is a legal immigration process they can go through. And if they go through that and they become legal citizens, welcome. I hope we're not a disappointment. But this constant pandering to the illegal immigrants, giving them money that is needed by legal American citizens, there's something seriously, seriously out of whack for that. Meanwhile, over in Greece, the European Union is going to pay for migrants' hotel accommodations. And apparently they're going to move 2,380 migrants from reception centers located in the eastern Aegean Islands to hotels and apartment accommodations on the mainland. The plan, which comes as European economies suffer massive losses because of the coronavirus, is being organized by the International Organization of Migration and the United Nations. The European Union will foot what promises to be an enormous bill. Polls in Italy are showing that support for an Italexit is growing. And as negotiations over financial aid for countries affected by the coronavirus have dragged on in Brussels, anti-EU sentiment is rising in many countries. This is particularly apparent in Italy, which has been the hardest hit member of the bloc during the crisis. Let's see. Belgium, France, Greece, Ireland, Italy, Luxembourg, Portugal, Slovenia, and Spain have been pushing for the issuing of so-called Corona bonds, which would distribute the debt among all countries in the bloc. The frugal four, however, Austria, Finland, Germany, and the Netherlands, are rejecting the suggestion and have called for the activation of the European Stability Mechanism, which would allow member states to take out loans in the form of bond purchases from the European Central Bank. Everybody's running out of money here. Okay, a little bit of good news for you gun enthusiasts out there. In California, a federal judge has blocked a California gun law that required people to undergo a background check before purchasing ammunition. U.S. District Judge Roger Benitez in San Diego called the regulations onerous and convoluted, adding that they violated a citizen's Second Amendment rights. Benitez ruled in favor of the California Rifle and Pistol Association, which had asked him to halt the background checks with a preliminary injunction. Instead, he's just tossed the law up. Said it's unconstitutional. Marbury versus Madison. If it's unconstitutional, it's not really a law. Another judge has dismissed the lawsuit brought by hate hoaxer Jesse Smollett, alleging malicious prosecution. So he's been shown the door on that one here. Last night, we had destructive tornadoes that hit Oklahoma, Texas, and Louisiana. 7 people killed, dozens injured. And it destroyed homes, businesses, and cars. More than 150,000 customers lost their electric power. 2 people were killed and 1 was critically injured after a tornado touched down in Marshall County, Oklahoma, around 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Oklahoma's Department of Emergency Management said at least 12 homes were damaged, more than 7,000 people left without power. A number of cars were damaged, with 1 ending up in a tree, and 2 factories, J&I Manufacturing and Oklahoma Steel and Wire. Another tornado hit Garvin County, Oklahoma, damaging 4 houses, 4 or 5 barns, shops, and outbuildings, but nobody was injured or killed, fortunately, in that one. Now, down in Mississippi, they had a huge tornado rated as EF4. That's the extended Fujitsu scale. This is the 4th EF4 this year. This is the most fatal tornado year since 2012. So this is the 3rd violent tornado in the area within just a week, and the 4th EF4 tornado in 2020. The Mississippi Emergency Management Agency has released its initial storm reports confirming 1 fatality and more than 80 properties partially or totally damaged. So far this year, tornadoes in the United States caused 67 fatalities, making it the most fatal individual tornado year since 2012. Okay, we're going to take a break for commercials. Join us on the air, 800-313-9443, and we will be right back.
Corporate media dominates the American opinion. Finding independent voices that counter this avalanche is becoming increasingly difficult. With the endless corruption running rampant throughout our government, independent voices are needed more than ever to battle the offensive against our freedoms and liberties. As a listener of RBN, no one understands this concept better than you. Now it's up to you to do your part. The time has come for you to take action and begin broadcasting the truth to hundreds or thousands of people every month. Sound impossible? Quite the contrary. With pointed slogans from LibertyStickers.com, you can reach countless sleeping Americans unaware that they live in a real-life wonderland. LibertyStickers.com has a huge inventory of political bumper stickers and messages that reflect the truth about our government, our politicians, and the future of America. With so many in stock, there's one perfect for you. Visit us today at LibertyStickers.com. Again, that's LibertyStickers.com. Do your part. Your voice is important. Let it be heard.
As a listener of RBN, you're surely concerned about being informed and being ready for whatever may come. Please consider the following questionnaire as a soul-jarring wake-up call. If you answer no to more than 2 of these following questions, you probably aren't going to make it through any major disruption in our country. The questions were compiled by people that have been there. Are you really ready? Do you own your own firearm for the primary defense and protection of you and your loved ones? Have you ever been professionally trained to stand against life-threatening behavior? Have you ever practiced enough to fire 500 rounds during a 2 to 4 day time frame, day and night? Can you load, unload, fire, and clear a jam in total darkness? Have all the adults in your household been professionally trained? Are you, life and death, comfortable with your abilities with pistol, revolver, shotgun, and rifle? Are you aware that everything that you do to prepare for an emergency is a waste of time, money, and energy? If you haven't honed your abilities to their highest level to protect and keep what you have, do you have the repair parts that will most likely be needed for each of your firearm, and do you have the ability to install those parts? Could you completely clean every firearm you own? Are you aware that your body won't go where your mind hasn't been? In other words, without proper training, followed by regular practice, you probably will not win a gunfight. Well, how did you measure up? Take the once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to start correcting your deficiencies by receiving your Commander Lifetime Membership with Front Sight Firearms Training Facility. A one-time donation to RBN for $500 will give you a Commander Lifetime Membership at Front Sight as a tremendously huge thank you bonus. See details on RBN's webpage to make it happen. The clock is ticking. You had better be ready before it happens.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. Join Mike on the air. Call toll-free 800-313-9443. 800-313-9443.
Welcome back to our show here. Now, the estate of Jeffrey Epstein, who we have been told is dead, has entered into settlement talks with 17 women who filed sex abuse suits. And apparently there's a victim compensation fund that will assess each claim before issuing a payout within 90 days. What I'm waiting for is to see who shows up at the auction for all of his bizarre artwork, including the much rumored picture of Bill Clinton in a blue dress. Anyway, for you astronomy freaks, of which I am one, an asteroid half the size of Mount Everest is set to fly by Earth next week, and they managed to image it using the radio telescope in Arecibo, Puerto Rico. And oddly enough, it looks like it's wearing a facial mask. So I guess the word about coronavirus got out there as well. Okay, the Hubble Space Telescope is now 30 years old, and they sort of celebrated it with some new images of a giant nebula. And there we are now. Google has put a lot of work into developing artificial intelligence, and they've come up with a new one that can sort of evolve on its own. So if you're thinking Skynet, you're not far off. And this artificial intelligence can not only evolve on its own, they can induce mutations. See what's going to happen. All right, we're going to take a phone call. Mark in Georgia. Hello, Mark. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
I don't know if you're familiar with yet another one of those symptoms. Oh, isn't that interesting? Years ago, they had this clip called House Cat Fever, where this big round table where various media cartel members met to how to basically get people all afraid. And so it's like, well, we got to spread this disease to get everyone afraid. And they called it House Cat Fever. And I don't know if you've seen it. You want me to shoot you the link for that, or you just want to look it up on YouTube?
Go ahead and send me the link for that one, but that would be very, very interesting.
Yeah, it's like obviously there is a fever, but it's like I like the Iceland solution where they basically dealt appropriately with the precursor to this mess we're in today because nobody was held accountable except in Iceland. But the reason why we're in this mess today is because nobody was held accountable 12 years ago when we were facing the same kind of mess where the banksters conjured all this. They got into this derivatives fraud and claimed that we owed trillions of dollars that, quite frankly, it's like, excuse me, the solution that Ron Paul and us Paul, I like the term Paulite because it sounds like polite. And I do want to be polite. I just bend more in the direction of candor than diplomacy. But the thing is, what really needs to happen is to liquidate the bad debt rather than perpetuating illegitimate debt. We need to acknowledge that we don't owe these trillions of dollars that didn't exist before the so-called loan. Does that sound fair enough?
That sounds fair enough. Are you familiar with the principle of odious debt?
Who? Odious debt is a debt that is impossible to retire. It's like if somebody dies, where you can liquidate their estate, but if their estate's worth say $5,000 and they owe $50,000, the $45,000 left over is odious debt, and it is not an asset. It's like all these student loans. It's not an asset because the students, whether or not they got their degree, the jobs aren't there for them to be able to pay it back. So the only legitimate course of action is to liquidate the bad debt, which is the one thing that the bankster plutocracy does not want to do. By the way, two cats have a birthday today because they have the same birthday as me. So I'm looking. In another year, I'll be able to start drawing on Social Security, and they say, well, if you wait a few more years, you'll be able to get more. And I'm like, if I wait a few more years, I may get a bigger number, but the value of that currency is going to be worth even less. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I want to back up to odious debt, though, because the context in which I'm talking about it is the fact it's an international legal principle that populations are not automatically responsible for certain debts of the government, in particular those that are, money that's borrowed to fight a war.
Yeah.
So
there's so-called, yes.
Yeah. So there's debts that legally the people can say, no, we're not responsible for that one.
Right. And that's what the folks of Iceland did, is that you guys got yourself into this mess by, doing all this leveraged, like the whole derivatives market. And, the thing is, people had mortgages where the interest rate went up. And what they did in Iceland was I was told that it was some kind of a limited jubilee where everything over 110, 115% was whatever you were over the water over a certain amount was that forget it. You don't owe significantly past what your house is worth. And for one, and the other thing is the interest rate is going to go back to what it was initially. And Iceland's economy is like trying to hold a beach ball underwater. You let go of the beach ball and it's going to just pop up to the surface. So it sounds like the music's playing. It's nice talking with you there, Mike. I'll shoot you the link as soon as I get a chance, okay?
All right. Thanks an awful lot here. We're going to take another break for commercials, and we'll be right back. Join us on the air, 800-313-9443.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Homeowners, are you in foreclosure, expecting to be served with a foreclosure lawsuit, or suspect your lender has coerced you into an illegal mortgage transaction? A huge number of mortgages made in the last 10 years have legal issues and are possibly defective. State laws and the U.S. Supreme Court have upheld that defective mortgage documents are grounds for foreclosure defense and for counterclaims in favor of the homeowner. If your mortgage has been sold or assigned since closing the loan, it may be defective and you may be paying the wrong party, and the lender may not have standing or the right to foreclose or collect payments under the law. If you would like to know if your mortgage is legal or not, or know if you are paying the right party, we can help. Our initial consultations are free of charge. We are not attorneys. We are legal researchers and work closely with experienced lawyers who know how to help you find the evidence to help you keep your home. Call toll free 1-855-2-KEEP-IT. That's 1-855-2-KEEP-IT today.
Did you know that you can be tracked and traced when you're online? With identity theft and cybercrimes on the rise, your passwords, your identity, and even your physical location can be revealed to complete strangers. Would you like to surf the internet anonymously and not have to worry about these threats? Well, now you can by visiting patriotinternet.com. For about $2 per month, patriotinternet.com will conceal your IP address and your physical location, allowing you to browse the web, send emails, and instant message anonymously. patriotinternet.com will bypass filters, block sites, and keyword blocking. You can also bypass logging by your router and your ISP. With patriotinternet.com, there is no software to install and uses 128-bit encryption for your protection. When using wireless hotspots, patriotinternet.com shields your information from identity thieves and is compatible with Windows, Mac, and Linux. Protect your identity and your freedom with anonymous internet access from patriotinternet.com. Visit patriotinternet.com today.
What would you say if I told you we have a new tool that will increase production and lower maintenance costs for your meat processing company? And it would pay for itself in just 6 weeks.
When pigs fly,
The new EaseOff Model EZ4 replaces old spring-style carcass droppers and is faster, safer, and more reliable. The EaseOff lowers or lifts 1,000 pounds to or from your rail automatically using our remote control.
sounds expensive. Can I afford it?
Can you afford not to try the EaseOff? It installs fast with just 3 bolts in place of your current dropper. The effortless operation will reduce fatigue and injuries, speed up your line, eliminate downtime, and increase profit.
How can I order my EaseOff?
Go to easeoff.com, EAZEOFF.com, and hurry because we are offering $200 off on the new EZ4 for a limited time. Easeoff.com. We make pigs fly. Cows too. EaseOff LLC, Summersville, Missouri, 417-932-6419.
When all is twisted steel was swept away, did these remaining holes reveal what's really happened?
Welcome back to our show here. We're going to go back to the phones to Harry in Indiana. Hello, Harry. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Good day, Mike. I was just recognizing the irony about the media saying inject your veins with disinfectant to cure the coronavirus. Well, they're not too far off. Okay, now, sodium bicarbonate, baking soda is pure sodium bicarbonate. And
Yes.
doctors used to give you a sodium bicarbonate drip when you went into the hospital if you was suffering from acidosis. And the thing about acidosis is they always associate with like industrial accidents and that kind of stuff. And it's not really associated with the Western diet and people drinking acidic beverages like pop and bottled tea and juices and that kind of stuff. So people are suffering from acidosis just to even get the flu. Now, the coronavirus, as well as cancer and many others, need an acidic medium to inject into a cell for replication. So it takes the Western diet to make a person sick. But this can be counteracted with simply taking a little bit of baking soda, and every morning or whatever, however long you need it, depending on how bad your diet is. And I've been alkaline for years and, really, it's doing wonders for me. But back to what I was saying about the IV drip, the baking soda is considered a sanitizer, and it is available in IV solution for hospitals to use. So, with that preventing the replication of the viruses or the actual virus from being able to get inside the cell, why aren't they just putting these people on an IV drip of the sodium bicarbonate? I'll never know. It's simple.
They don't want simple. They want complicated and high markup.
Yeah, super expensive. They're after the money, not the cure. That's obvious. But for like me or you and the other person that can't afford to go in the hospital and be put on a ventilator for a week, all you got to do is just start drinking a little baking soda. Now, I'm not exactly sure how that's going to work with the one strain that's going around with the two segments, the HIV virus that can affect the white blood cells, but it seems like it would help in that as well.
Okay, Trump is actually on TV right now claiming he was being sarcastic about the disinfectant comment. I think he was just being reckless.
Yeah. Yeah, but I guess he didn't know about the baking soda thing. His
or the
favorite
alcohol.
drug yeah, that helps too.
That's my favorite disinfectant is alcohol.
Yeah, I'm with you on there. But that hydroxy, what was that? The hydroxy drug?
Hydroxychloroquine.
Yeah, its method of action is by raising the pH intercellularly. Inside the cell, it alkalines the cell. Well, the baking soda would do that too if you just get rid of the acid diet and start taking a little bit of that. The directions are on the back of the box for stomach aches and that kind of stuff. You can just follow the directions and cure yourself. And also, they found out in 1918 that people who had an alkaline diet and used a little bit of baking soda, they were less likely to get the swine flu too.
You mean
but
the
it
Spanish
seems to be
flu?
common. Yeah, Spanish flu. I'm sorry, but it seems to be common within all the virus infections. It's a simple method to cure diseases. Just simply alkaline the diet, alkaline the body. Get rid of the Western food, that kind of thing. And that's pretty well where I was going with everything, Mike.
Okay, well, thank you very much for the information, and thank you for the phone call. We're going to switch over to Ray in Indiana. Hello, Ray. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, Mike. I wanted to give you information on that Dr. Andrew Kaufman, because you had several callers talk. Do you know who I'm talking about?
Yes.
Okay. He is a doctor, but he's a doctor of psychiatry. He's not a medical doctor. And so the medical community thinks he's a joke. But he does have a nice video on YouTube, and it's making its rounds. And I can tell you've had several callers call in and talk about that corona is not real. And it's because of this guy right here. And to give you some idea of his credibility, David Icke is jumped big time on his bandwagon and is quoting him quite a bunch there. So I give you some idea of his credibility. But you get people calling in about him. They really don't know what they're talking about. Coronavirus is real, and there are people dying from it. That part is the overreaction is what's wrong. The economic shutdown is totally uncalled for, and it's going to cause a lot more damage than. And along those lines, I told you I was trying to quantify them. Well, the London Guardian is quoting a United Nations report saying that because of this economic slowdown and recession worldwide, that they're saying anywhere from 100 to 300 million people are going to starve to death this year. That is way worse than the thousands of people that we're going to have dying here in the United States. And like Steve Elkin, some of the other callers, I totally agree that number is being padded. they're up to almost 50,000, and it's probably half that. But we won't know until the end of the year until this all passes, unfortunately. So then one other quick update: the Stanford study in California.
Yes.
Those same people are doing a 10,000 sample of 10,000 people that are all part of the Major League Baseball. They're not the players, but 27 different teams have agreed to let their employees and their medical staff are all helping out with this, and they're going to have a sample size of 10,000 people spread out all over the country, and they'll be getting results from that here soon, and that's going to be a very accurate representation of what the antibodies are actually out there in the entire United States. Like I said, the sample size is going to be 10,000 people. So I'll definitely give you an update on that once they report. Because, like I said, I'm actually following Dr. Jade Pachakri, and I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing his name. He's actually one of the lead authors on that, and he's doing great reporting on YouTube about the results and everything else, and he does a great job of it. He's a medical doctor, and he has a degree in economics. And like I say, he's definitely saying that this economic shutdown is the wrong answer to this problem.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, I think the antibody results here are going to definitely confirm that this is the wrong answer. So anyway, I do appreciate your time. Let me chime in. Keep up the great work, and hopefully they'll lift this travel restriction, and we can do a meet and greet. You're getting all these Indiana callers here, so hopefully someday here soon we can do a meet and greet and meet you in person. I'd love to see that happen.
That's one of the reasons we moved back to the mainland, is so I can get out there and get some talking engagements. Anyway, thank you very much for the phone call. We're going to switch over to Graybeard in Washington State. Hello, Graybeard. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind today?
Well, Mike, let me say thank you very much for doing what you do. Thank the lovely Lady Claire as well. Always love her insights. And
about 17 minutes.
All righty, cool. We've got a little bit of a situation. I've been listening to the show, and I've had my my brain go off here about a couple of things. The situation that you were talking about concerning their trying to stop people from their right to peaceably assemble.
Yes.
Got me to thinking, our Governor Inslee, the rat doesn't even begin to cover it. Anyway, he made a asinine statement yesterday concerning a couple of our sheriffs. And we have a couple of sheriffs in Washington that have stated that, no, they're not going to enforce his stay-at-home dictum and his ridiculousness going on with the with the situation, and they're just not going to enforce it. It's an unconstitutional situation.
Okay.
Now he made the comment replying to them saying, well, that's okay. I have state troopers and National Guard. Does that sound dangerous to you, or is that just me?
That sounds very dangerous. It sounds like this guy's ego's getting the better of him.
Oh, yeah, in an extremely major way. Little other thing I wanted to just throw out there real quick and run it by you. I've noticed that across the country, the hot spots, the states and the cities that are really, really cracking down and are screaming for all this stay-at-home stuff and everything else, and that they're not getting as much help as they need and all this other stuff.
Yes.
Are suspiciously, they're all, at least as far as I know, the majority of them are sanctuary cities. You know, you've got New York and then Chicago and Seattle and you know, and didn't Trump last year say something about, okay, if you're not going to play by the rules, we're not going to give you any support or aid or any kind of stuff like that for it? Or he was cutting off their federal
He was cutting
funding
off
if they
some
didn't
funding.
comply.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, doesn't it seem odd to you that all of a sudden, of course, everybody's using the you know, don't let a good catastrophe go to waste situation.
Yeah.
It seems unusual that, I mean, up here we had a hospital built, didn't even see a single patient, and is being taken down and removed now because it's not needed. But Inslee is still screaming that the federal government isn't doing enough and he needs more of this and that. It seems to me, again, with another thing you mentioned earlier, that they're channeling or at least in my estimation, they're doing their darndest to try and figure out a way to channel the money away from we the people and giving it to the people that aren't supposed to be here in the first place.
Well, if you listened earlier in the show, we were talking about this situation in Oregon, where they're carving off about $10 million of the COVID money for illegal immigrants.
Yes, and I have a very high suspicion that that is actually going on in New York and up here in Seattle and down in LA as well. You know, I don't know for a fact, of course, because, you know, I don't, you know, I'm out in the rainforest. I don't go to Seattle if I can at all possibly avoid it.
Yeah. I know the feeling.
Yeah. You know, Mick Dodge is my neighbor kind of thing. Anyway, the last thing I just want to say is, again, thank you very much for doing what you do, giving us a platform to be able to express our concerns, share thoughts and opinions, and to give your wondrous intellect, you know, to lend a machete into our intellectual thicket here that the government loves to try and spin us up in.
Well, thank you for the kind words, and thank you for the phone call. We're going to let you go. The phone lines are open, 800-313-9443. Now, right now, there are 8 meatpacking plants that closed across America, and this is raising fears that there may be a food shortage, and there may well be. We've had people calling on in and saying, you know, the food is out there, but the supply chain is breaking down because the truckers can't make money because the restaurants are closed, cafeterias at schools are closed, places that normally buy a lot of the produce aren't buying. Nobody seems to really have the money to get the food shipped from where it's produced to places like the food banks. So 8 meatpacking plants closed. All right, the other day, Donald Trump issued an order that if any of those Iranian gunboats harass U.S. warships in the Gulf, which is Iran's backyard, that they could open fire. Iran has announced that if any U.S. warships harass Iranian ships, they will open fire. So this is getting very, very, very serious. Now, again, a lot of people could be forgiven for saying, why are we even over there? Why are we over there in the Persian Gulf? I mean, that would be like Iran's warships tooling around the Gulf of Mexico, which, to the best of my knowledge, they're not doing. Anyway. Okay, 50% of Americans say their savings will run out this month. $1,200 doesn't go as far as it used to, apparently. And, you know, they're trying to get more of this money going on out there. And ultimately, you know, it's driving the U.S. national debt right through the roof. The debt is now larger than at the end of World War II. Over in Korea, rumors are still flying back and forth about Kim Jong-un. And apparently, the concern about how close he might be to death comes from a single anonymous source in South Korea. And so people are pulling back and saying, well, maybe not, we don't know. But If Kim Jong-un dies or decides to retire, his younger sister is primed to take over. She's next in the order of succession. Hopefully she'll be a little bit mellower than Kim Jong-un was. ZeroHedge.com has an article, expert warns U.S. is on the brink of mass civil unrest. I hope not, but I understand why that might be coming. Okay. Let's see. People are talking about a comeback for, there's our commercial. We'll be back after these few words.
TalkRight, the conservative app offered by TalkStream Live that caters exclusively to the conservative talk radio community. Here you'll see only talk shows and podcasts from the conservative right. All the big broadcast names and online digital shows in one place. TalkRight makes it easy to find all your favorite conservative talkers with all the upscale features you come to expect from TalkStream Live. Keep up with the fast-paced political world. Download TalkRight today from Google Play or the App Store.
Broadcasting Network late night premiere show of Red Pill Hardcore is hosted by activists that want to hear from you, the listeners. So that you can get involved in the activism, please call in at 800-313-9443 at 10 p.m. to enter the discussion. To book yourself as a guest, call our studio at 202-657-5715 or contact RBN staff. Remember, keep it real and take the Red Pill.
This is too good to be true, except this time it is real. 100%. No joke. How about a $25,000 membership to Front Sight Firearms Training Facility as a thank you bonus for a one-time donation to RBN of only $500? It is a Commander lifetime membership with no yearly fees or dues. The training is free for the rest of your life with over 50 different classes. Then leave it to your designated beneficiary. You provide the approved firearm, holster, ammo, eye, and ear protection. Many features and bonuses are included, more than you would ever expect or believe. This is the ultimate graduation present, wedding gift, etc., etc. See the details. Go to RBN's webpage and frontsight.com to make it happen. You will hear this offer only on this radio network. Help keep RBN alive. Tell 5.
Many people write us about their experience with Extendivite. Allow me to read you some from Amazon.com. This product is superb. I have been taking it for about a year now, and I can feel my cardiovascular system run like a Swiss watch. I definitely recommend this product for anyone that has high cholesterol, high blood pressure, and heart palpitations, A+. It's potent, but it works. I have been waking up for the past 3 years with numb hands, and a week into using Extendivite, my numb hands seem to have cleared up. My circulation was off, and now it's back on track. So I'm happy. I feel so energized, and I have my husband on it now. My mother-in-law has cholesterol problems, so I bought her a bottle as well. Thank you so much. Love the product. Tell us your story. Get Extendivite today. Call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite. We the people, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and
Welcome back to our show here, and we were talking about food insecurity and the possibility that there's going to be some hunger in this country because of this economic lockdown. And we're looking at a wide variety of problems. One is, of course, the virus outbreaks at food plants, the processing plants being closed down. We talk about 8 of them now. The reliance on guest workers is another problem. Trump is saying he's suspending immigration, but apparently he's not planning to include guest worker programs in the ban. Apparently, despite automation, America's agricultural sector still depends heavily on foreign workers to pick the crops. Another issue, and I was unaware of this one, is supply chain mismatch, because our supply chain is set up for normal times when a lot of people are eating at restaurants and, kids are eating lunch and a carton of milk at school, and they haven't really adapted yet to the fact of everybody being kept at home. Apparently, some $5 billion of fresh fruits and vegetables have already gone to waste, according to the Produce Marketing Association. Some dairies have been pouring thousands of gallons of milk down the drain. That really is terrible. And even before the pandemic began, 37 million people were considered food insecure, according to Monica, I think it's Hake, a senior research manager at Feeding America, a hunger prevention group. And of course, the economic downturn from the lockdown is only going to make that number rise. Let's see. As more and more cities have locked down, the problem of how to get food into people's homes has grown. People practicing stringent social distancing have resorted to grocery deliveries, leaving delivery services strapped for workers. So that's a big part of the problem. And, we've always talked about prepping, and you can't survive for very long on your prepping, but if you have the room, hopefully you've already put in a vegetable garden, and as we get into summer and things start blooming on the trees, you might want to learn how to can, put stuff away for the fall. So you might want to think about getting a chest freezer. We were at Walmart the other day looking for freezers. They were completely sold out. We're not talking about the refrigerator in the kitchen. We're talking about a separate standalone chest freezer in the garage for the overflow. And they were completely sold out. It's like the toilet paper. All of a sudden, everybody realizes they need one or they want one. All right, we're coming up here on the top of the hour and station identification break. And when we come on back, the lovely lady Claire will be joining us with her unique perspective on the world. And meanwhile, let's see. Oh, there's the music. All right, we'll be back after station identification.
Here at Republic Broadcasting Network, we have been building our online store. Well, we have been focusing on bringing you the best talk show host in the country. Here at Republic Broadcasting Network, we also want our listeners to have products they can use every day and in times of emergency. We have added new products each week to our store. Your support of this network, plus products at the best prices, is a win-win situation. Check out our new store. Go to our website, republicbroadcasting.org, and click on the online store located at the top of our website. Together, we can continue to grow RBN and help our listeners prepare for the future. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and click on our online store or call us.
800-724-2719, extension 3. 800-724-2719, extension 3.
This is RBN, The Republic Broadcasting Network.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network, where you'll find out what the Fukushima's going on.
Welcome back to our show here, hour number 2. We are going to open up the phone lines after all. That'll be 800-313-9443. Meanwhile, for those of you watching on YouTube, this gorgeous creature sitting next to me is the lovely Lady Claire, who, there we go, who likes to chime in with her unique perspective on the world every Friday afternoon. So take it away, Claire.
Oh, yes. One of the articles I read today was with this huge crash in oil prices. It's going to make the current government of Iran have some more difficulties in terms of staying in power. Mike, I would like your thoughts about that, because not only are they dealing with some pressure, not only handling the coronavirus outbreak and its disastrous handling of the economy. And do you think, Mike, that this oil price crash is going to affect the government?
Definitely it will. You know, on top of all the sanctions that the U.S. has thrown on them. I mean, Iran could be forgiven for feeling they're under attack.
Yeah.
And but I notice in this article, you know, they're talking about, you know, the country's being run badly. Well, you know, it's hard to run a country when you don't have the resources you need.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
and
very
it's a cop out to simply say, oh, well, it's the fault of the leadership.
Yeah.
But that's the way American political stuff works.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you think that there is going to be another revolution?
Well, they're already out there trying to encourage it.
Yeah.
You know, in fact, Pompeo was out there just the other day saying that, yes, they're going to be funding dissident groups to try and regime change Iran and put in a government more friendly to U.S. interests.
Wow. When would you imagine this might happen in terms of an actual change in the government in Tehran?
Well, remember the last time they tried this was 2009 and they fell flat on their face.
Weren't they trying to install the Shah's son, if I recall correctly?
Well, the Shah's son was trying to install the Shah's son.
Okay.
And he opened up his mouth and he started, you know, handing out the flag of the new Iran, which turned out to be the flag of the Shah.
Old Iran.
Of the old Iran.
Yeah.
And kind of blew the whole thing up. So I'm sure they Velcroed his mouth shut for the next time they do that.
Yes.
All right. We're going to grab a quick phone call. Charles in Ontario. Charles, welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Show. It's always informative. It's always great to hear opinions from all corners of the world. There's so many things, so many areas to discuss, but it strikes me that there is a simple solution right in front of us, and people aren't talking about it, and that's the part that I find frustrating. What the solution is, to my mind, is that, and I've called in before, it was about a week or 10 days ago, is that there's 2 doctors who say they can stop the coronavirus cold with a simple, this is with people who are seriously ill with it, and it doesn't take a lot of money, and doesn't take a lot of drugs. It's a combination of vitamin C, vitamin D, zinc, and if the person is sick, then they need the anti-malarial drug to basically act as an injector for those minerals and vitamins. And if we don't have any more time. We have to come up with a simple solution. We have to focus in on what's important, what the primary issue is right now. Yeah, Jones said today there's going to be 20 million extra deaths in Africa because of the shutdown. You just mentioned there's going to be massive unrest in the United States. We can't talk about all the other items. We just have to talk about the one item that can stop this within 48 hours.
Charles, I would be very interested in knowing where the studies come from. It sounds like it would work, definitely.
It almost sounds too good to be true, and that's my concern.
It does sound too good to be true, yes.
Where have the studies been done on this? To
it's
prove
not studies, it's 2 doctors. It's 2 doctors. Dr. Vladimir Zelenko in New York City says he has a 100% success rate in 350 patients using the anti-malarial drug with zinc. And it's been repeated by a doctor in Los Angeles saying essentially the same things.
Wow. That those
The
sound
same
like
thing.
incredible numbers. Yeah, yeah.
No, incredible. 100%. 8 to 12 hours. People who are seriously ill and they are cured. Now, these people are either frauds, which I don't think so, because they're risking career suicide by doing this. They're both
I hear
accredited
you.
doctors. One is a Hasidic Jew in New York and New York State, and the other one has got a large practice in Los Angeles. So everything else is I understand the talk about ventilators and masks and political motivations and what's happening in other countries, but we have to act on this now. And I think as a Trump is talking about, we need to go outside and get more sunshine. Yes, we do. That's vitamin D. If we have vitamin D, you're getting that.
Yeah.
So I'm a little frustrated because I think this is all that matters. Nothing else is an issue.
Well, I hear your concerns, and I think that they are very reasonable concerns. And I wish that a few more doctors would get a little more brave, start trying this on their patients and seeing what the results are. Because from what you're describing, the side effects, if there are any, must be relatively minor.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, it's a two-step process from what I understand. This is the treatment with the anti-malarial drug. But there's also prevention. You don't need the anti-malarial drug. All you've got to do is make sure that people get vitamin C, vitamin D, and zinc. And as long as you cannot, there are no side effects for that as long as you don't take enormous amounts of zinc. So we can use that as prevention. So we don't need about catching it. We don't need to worry about wearing masks and all this social distancing and everything else that goes along with it. Everybody takes those vitamins. They take the minerals, and then the people who have it use the treatments. But I want to get people back working again. We can no longer afford this 6-week holiday because it's turning into a very nasty situation.
Oh, yeah. I'm with you on that. Absolutely. And the question has to be the risk benefit in terms of opening. And the risk, I mean, the U.S. economy is not doing well, Charles. I mean, we know that on a daily basis.
Understandably so. Yeah. Yeah, you're right.
And
absolutely.
Let's get
So
America
as
back
far as
to
I
work
can see, and maybe I'm wrong, because I'm not a doctor, I'm not a scientist, but it seems to me that there's no risk in doing these vitamins and doing the zinc in reasonable numbers, and just start doing it. And say, Trump, why are there no studies? Why are not hundreds of millions of dollars going into this right now?
Yeah.
We don't have time. We don't have time to mess around.
Because Big Pharma can't make a huge profit off of vitamins. I mean, they've even tried to have vitamins made prescription only.
Outlawed.
Yeah.
You're exactly right. But we can't listen. We can't wait for them. We have to say, we understand the drug companies do a lot of good, but we can't listen to them. We can't wait for studies. We need it now. Yes. And as I said, there's no risk. I'm not talking about doing anything at a toxic level. People just start taking the stuff and say, we need this more doctors involved. I don't know, maybe Mr. Trump can say, okay, I'm going to test this with 10 doctors. It can't hurt.
Nope.
Definitely not.
Right? So we need a solution now. And you made the point today, Mike, is that the United States is on the verge of civil unrest, all right, because of this.
Yes.
And Jones mentioned, as I said, 10 million people die from starvation every year. And because of the shutdown in the West, and there's 2.3 billion people at risk because they're subsistence living, 20 million are going to die already. So what are we waiting for? Okay, anyway, I've said my piece. Thank you very much. Your show is fantastic because it gets it out to a lot of people. And my hope is by saying this, other people will pick up on this and say, okay, let's deal with this now.
I hear you.
I agree.
Yes.
Okay. I absolutely agree.
Definitely.
Vitamin C, vitamin D, zinc.
And that's it. All in responsible amounts. That's all.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Well, Charles, thank you very much for the information, and thank you very much for the phone call. The phone lines are open again. And Claire, your next story is?
Well, the next story I have comes from a very sober-sided blog to which I link frequently. It's called ZeroHedge.com. And it's a consortium of writers who write under the pseudonym Tyler Durden. So it's men, women, people presenting articles, but
dogs, cats,
no,
the mouse.
No.
Okay.
No. But Pepe Escobar is a writer, blogger, and I would encourage people, if you don't know this guy, read what he has to say, because generally he has a habit of being annoyingly bang spot on. And the article that appeared today in Zero Hedge was, what did U.S. intel really know about the Chinese virus, and when did they know it? Now, the way Escobar is describing what's going on between the US and China, he is defining it as a hybrid war 2.0 and very bipartisan. And it's already reached fever pitch. And he says its 24/7 full spectrum InfoWar arm blames China for everything coronavirus related. And it's doubling down as a diversionist tactic against any informed criticism of woeful American unpreparedness. Well, he got that nailed.
Yes, he's absolutely right.
Yeah. And unfortunately, he says this is just the beginning. We're going to see a deluge of lawsuits against China, like the one from the Southern District of Florida entered into by Berman Law Group and linked to Democrats, and Lucas Compton linked to the Republicans. And in a nutshell, they are demanding that China shells out a ton of cash to the tune of, let's see, 1.2 trillion, which happens to be, ironically, the amount of U.S. Treasury bills held by Beijing, all the way to 20 trillion claimed by a lawsuit in Texas. Now, the prosecutor's case, and Scott Ritter, another writer with whom we have a great deal of commonality and respect, it's straight out of Monty Python, and it works like this. If she weighs the same as a duck, she's made of wood, and therefore she's a witch. Now, in Hybrid War 2.0 terms, the current CIA-style narrative translates that the Chinese were evil, never telling the civilized West there was a terrible new virus around, and if they did, we would have had time to prepare. But guess what the CIA is saying? No such product or service exists. Now, apparently ABC reported on this, and it said that there was intelligence collected last November in 2019 by the National Center for Medical Intelligence, which is a subsidiary of the Pentagon's Defense Intelligence Agency. And they were already warning in November about a new virulent contagion getting out of hand in Wuhan based on detailed analysis intercepted by communications and satellite imagery. And apparently, this unnamed source told ABC analysts believed it could be a cataclysmic event, adding that the intel was briefed multiple times to the DIA, Pentagon's Joint Chiefs of Staff, and even the White House. Now, this of course led the Pentagon to have to issue the proverbial denial in, of course, Pentagonese. Via one Colonel Shane Day, the director of DIA's NCMI. And I love this quote. I mean, I'd laugh. The problem is stopping, Michael.
Yes.
In the interest of transparency during this public health crisis, we can confirm that the media reporting about the existence/release of a National Center for Medical Intelligence coronavirus-related product assessment in November is not correct. No such NCMI product exists. Oh, please. And now
I'm going to believe the Chinese on this one.
I've got to tell you, why would they do something that would sicken and kill their own people? This is just, there is no logic here. And now we have the following demand by Secretary of State Pompeo to President Xi Jinping of China. And what Pompeo is asking President Xi to do is to open up all of the labs in Wuhan, which China has denied. Now, the request comes amid a U.S. investigation into whether the Wuhan coronavirus has escaped from the Wuhan Institute of Virology, where they were conducting a host of experiments on bat coronavirus and had collected bats in caves over 1,000 miles away in Yunnan, which carried COVID-19. And what Pompeo has gone on record saying, there are multiple labs inside of China that are handling these things. And he said that at the press department briefing on Wednesday. It is important that those materials are being handled in a safe and secure way and that there isn't an accidental release. We have to make sure that the Chinese government is handling those materials in an appropriate way, not only in Wuhan, but elsewhere, Pompeo added, according to the report. Folks, this is a when did you stop beating your wife request? I mean, Mike, your thoughts, please.
Well, it's coming from the same people who allowed anthrax to escape from Fort Detrick to be put
Yeah.
into those envelopes after 9/11. Anyway, we've got callers waiting on the line.
Okay.
So let's take a few phone calls,
All right.
starting with Mark in Texas. Hello, Mark. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Well, hey, Claire, how are you?
I am well, and yourself?
I'm good.
Good.
I'm switching topics
Okay.
and make it a little more local.
Okay.
Here in Dallas, I don't remember if it was 5 or maybe 10 years ago, they made this draconian law that restaurants had to throw away all their food at the end of the evening.
Yeah.
And from what I understand, there is maybe half of their food they don't sell. And we've got a food bank problem here in Dallas.
Mm-hmm.
And I just wanted to let everybody know in the Dallas area that we have a rally Tuesday morning at 11 a.m. Down at City Hall. And I heard it on the radio earlier. It was a beautiful mother and grandmother, and she said she's going, and I'm taking my elderly mom and dad. We'll just sit in the car, and we'll take our signs. And I just think that's something that that we can do, right? My other point is, the government shut it down. I'm not going to play politics. Do they do right, wrong? I don't know. But, why is it that we, the people, always get stuck with the bill? And Representative Omar, and I don't agree with her on much, but a couple days ago, she said we need to have a jubilee, no
Yes.
rent
Absolutely.
or mortgage for a year. Now, this isn't our choosing to shut down the economy, and I'm not saying it's anybody's fault, but why is it that we always get stuck with it and the banks don't?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I don't know. Anyway, that's all I had to say, and just enjoy the show.
All right. Well,
Thank you.
Thank you very much here. And we're going to switch over to Harry in Indiana. Hello, Harry. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hi, Mike. Sorry to call back twice in one day, but I'll make this brief. The guy that was talking about the anti-malaria drug and taking the zinc with it.
Yes.
Like I was saying before, the anti-malaria drug raises the pH in the cell. It basically alkalines it. And the zinc ion actually attracts to the red blood cell to remove carbon dioxide from the system. And a carbon buildup creates carbonic acid, and to reduce that acid is what the zinc's for. So, I mean, that's like a double whammy to take acid out of the system. And that goes back to what I was saying, with the use of baking soda to reduce the acid and changing the diet, that kind of thing. And I also wanted to mention, I've had 2 lung infections within, 3 weeks or so. One of them hit my upper lungs right above my, between my shoulder blades, but in the front. And I took baking soda water that day, and it took care of it. I was good for about 2 weeks, and then all of a sudden my windpipe got real inflamed, and it felt like my chest was just going to split at my sternum every time I coughed. And I took baking soda water for that, and that took care of that. It was sore for a day or two, but the initial pain quit after within hours of drinking the baking soda water. And that's all I wanted to say. Just comment to the other guy. Thanks,
Okay.
Mike. I appreciate it, buddy.
All right. Thank you very much. And yeah, we did let Harry break the 1 call per caller per day rule, but we did want to get that back. Okay. We're coming up here on a commercial break here. We've got another caller waiting on the line when we get back. So stay tuned. We'll be coming back after these words from our sponsors.
Hey, honey, I'm home. I grabbed a newspaper on the way home. Look at all the news today.
Don't you know that all you're going to get in the newspaper is propaganda, twisted news, and false information?
Honey, this is a national newspaper. It has to be true.
Ha! For some reason, the majority of the population believe anything the mainstream media tells them. The newspaper doesn't give out the important attention of what's happening to this country and news that affects our daily lives. Say, does that newspaper mention anything about the North American Union?
No, not that I can see.
I didn't think so. You need to go to www.newswithviews.com, where truth is more important than political correctness. That's www.newswithviews.com. Hey, don't throw that away. We can use that in the birdcage.
Okay, move over. Let me start reading newswithviews.com.
The truth? Read all about it at newswithviews.com. Newswithviews.com, where reality shatters illusion.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now, but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you've become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge 20, 30, 40, 50, if possible, 100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
When all this twisted steel was swept away, did these remaining holes reveal what's really happened?
Welcome back to our show here. We're going to go back to the phone to Kevin in Kentucky. Hello, Kevin. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, how you doing, Mike?
Doing fine.
Yeah, it's nice to see you and Claire. I know she's there, right there with you. She's like a nice person. She's rubbing your back. Good.
Yes.
I know you guys are a nice couple. It's amazing. But have you heard anything else about the Comet Atlas, the comet that's coming?
Yeah, I mean, the last I heard, it was breaking up, so it's not going to be quite the show they were expecting it to be. And of course, it's not going to get all that close to Earth to begin with. You know, that asteroid that's half the size of Everest is going to be a lot closer, but it's not going to hit the Earth either.
That's cool because I bought a telescope. Have you brought your telescope out lately?
Not well. I brought it out a few days ago to look at the moon, and I'm still learning how to use the little built-in computer.
Oh, you got a cool telescope. Yeah, nice one. Yeah, and the moon was it was the super moon, right? The moon's been acting crazy funny lately, right?
Well, it's not acting crazy funny. I mean, it's acting like the moon, and but yeah, it was just basically to get first light through the scope. And But I'm expecting as we get a little further into the summer, we've got these nieces and nephews we're going to have over for star parties.
Oh, that's going to be nice. Good. That's cool, Mike. I appreciate that. And then, what about the vaccines, though? Remember, you guys were talking about vaccines. I know, like, my brother-in-law's friend works for GlaxoSmithKline.
Yes.
GSK, the GlaxoSmithKline. And a while back, he told me that they make the adjuvants. You know about adjuvants, right?
Yes.
And he was like, yeah, we make the adjuvants for like a pandemic. He told me about that stuff. Like the adjuvants, because it's like a thinner. They put them in the vaccines. It's like, when people buy heroin, they put fillers in it,
Yeah, well, that's not what adjuvants are. Adjuvants are there to provoke a response.
No, but he was saying, like, the way I took it was that, like when people buy heroin or dope, it's like a drug, and then they cut it with stuff. So he was telling me they cut it with fillers. The adjuvants are like fillers, basically. And it's like, who knows what they're putting in it? It's GlaxoSmithKline.
Yeah. Well, the adjuvants are things like peanut oil, is one that's often used, and it may in fact be responsible for the epidemic of peanut anaphylaxis that we're seeing in the population, because peanut oil is something you're supposed to eat and digest, not inject directly into the bloodstream. But the idea is that the adjuvants will stimulate a response, and your immune response will supposedly home in on whatever viral fragments or bacteria fragments they have inside the vaccine itself.
Yeah, and then people get like peanut allergies,
Yes.
And I don't know. That's fine. Well, I just wanted to talk to you. I know the lovely lady Claire's there, right, too. And then think about this, Mike. I know you guys, because you guys had talked about it, about how it might have come out of Fort Detrick, Maryland, right? And then people talked about it, like people are trying to expose stuff. I'm not saying I completely buy into it, but how the vaping, remember vaping?
Yes.
And it was like a flu. And then people got on respirators and all this stuff, and people were kind of talking about it. And I don't know. I mean, like, I love a good conspiracy, but they said that, it might have slipped out of, the United States. This whole thing they were talking about, and
well, that's what Beijing
I
is
don't
saying
know.
now. Beijing is saying COVID-19 came from the U.S. Of course, everybody's pointing fingers in every direction.
No, I agree with that, and I just made chili tonight. But anyway, Mike, I don't know, man. And then they set up all the hospitals, right? And then if you look at all the hospitals, they're empty. And then all the people in the hospitals what are they doing? They're just filming, like, I know you guys are older, you're nice people, but you're all they're doing is filming like TikTok videos, like choreographed like dance moves. And they're laying off doctors and nurses, and
meanwhile, non-urgent care is not being taken care of.
Yeah.
Anyway, listen, we got to take another break for commercials. Thank you for the phone call, Kevin. We'll be back with the Lady Claire after these few.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Homeowners, if your lender has gone out of business or sold your transaction to another lender or servicer, you may be the victim of a wrongful foreclosure, resulting in the loss of your home. If you've already lost your home, are in foreclosure, or even in good standing, you can challenge the mortgage transaction's illegal issue, and your property can be restored to you, and your foreclosure can be stopped or reversed, and the mortgage transaction declared unenforceable. State laws, U.S. title codes, the Uniform Commercial Codes, and U.S. Supreme Court rulings have upheld that defective mortgage documentations can reverse or stop foreclosures and enforce property title claims in favor of the homeowner. We are having successes in stopping the process of foreclosure, the enforcement of the foreclosure judgments, the sale of property, and evictions after the sale. We are not attorneys, and we don't give legal advice. We are a professional team of legal researchers, providing forensic mortgage audits and expert witnesses. We have the knowledge to produce the evidence and enforce laws regarding your legal issues. We've been in business for 12 years without a complaint. Consultations are free, and we provide a free title search to confirm if your mortgage has legal defects. Please call 855-253-3748. 855, keep it today.
Did you know that you can be tracked and traced when you're online? With identity theft and cybercrimes on the rise, your passwords, your identity, and even your physical location can be revealed to complete strangers. Would you like to surf the internet anonymously and not have to worry about these threats? Well, now you can by visiting patriotinternet.com. For about $2 per month, patriotinternet.com will conceal your IP address and your physical location, allowing you to browse the web, send emails, and instant message anonymously. patriotinternet.com will bypass filters, block sites, and keyword blocking. You can also bypass logging by your router and your ISP. With patriotinternet.com, there is no software to install and uses 128-bit encryption for your protection. When using wireless hotspots, patriotinternet.com shields your information from identity thieves and is compatible with Windows, Mac, and Linux. Protect your identity and your freedom with anonymous internet access from patriotinternet.com. Visit patriotinternet.com today.
Many people write us about their experience with Extendivite. Allow me to read you some from Amazon.com. It really does work like the review says it does. I cannot believe that after the first few days, I didn't feel as sluggish or clogged up. It has had a profound impact on my physical, emotional well-being. I'm skeptical as most people about products and their claims, and I never write reviews, but this is a wonderful product and I recommend it to everyone. Great product. It has brought my blood pressure from the mid-150s over the 80s to the mid-130s over mid-80s, along with diet and exercise in just the past couple of months. Excellent. Thank you, David. Tell us your story. Get Extendivite today. Call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendivite.
Well, they're stealing down on Wall Street and in Washington, too. You know, it makes me wonder, what's a guy on Main Street to do? I've always tried to be an honest, upstanding kind of guy. But I must admit lately, I thought about giving something else a try. Oh, I want to be a pirate. I want to sail the seven seas. Yeah, I want to be a pirate. I want to do just what I...
Welcome back to our show here. We're going to go back to the phones to Lenny in California. Hello, Lenny. Welcome back to the show. What's on your mind today?
Happy Friday to you and your wife, Mr. Rivera. What's on my mind today is the U.S. accusing China of being behind the so-called virus. And it was Israel that disclosed that the U.S. told them about the virus long before it broke out in Wuhan. All right. So
okay.
when America says, when Pompeo, let me rephrase that, when Pompeo says that says China should open up all their laboratories, China shoots right back and says maybe America should open up all their laboratories.
Exactly.
Right? When America says, for the first time in their vocabulary, reparation from other countries, China shoots right back and says, well, maybe you should pay reparation for all the countries you've invaded.
Absolutely.
This is according to China State media. Now, it's just funny to me that when the Italians decide to go searching and say, we need to find our first patient. Patient zero. United States said, no, you don't need to do that. We don't need you to do that. My thing is, what are you hiding from, America? Okay, and I think Malcolm X once said, if you got a pack of dogs and you pick up a rock and throw it into the dogs, the only one that's gonna holler is the one that got hit. All right. So it seems to me that the United States is doing a lot more hollering than they should be doing if they're not as guilty as they are. So, and I want to say something else, Mr. Rivera. It's interesting. I don't have cable anymore, so I've been watching regular TV. So I got onto a kick of watching Sliders. You remember that show back in the 80s or 90s?
Yes.
Or Sliders. Well, they did an episode. You talk about predictive programming. They did an episode where they slid into a parallel universe, and they were practicing the Malthusian thing, where there were only 500 million people alive on the planet. Okay, and if you won the lottery, you were automatically sentenced to death as long as you left your winnings with your family members, so that the state could collect taxes on it. But the right to lifers were a designated terrorist group in this episode. Look this up if you can find it. I think you'll find it very interesting.
Yeah, I probably will.
In any case, I just thank you for allowing me to get in and have a good weekend.
All right, same to you, Lenny. And we're going to switch over to Apostle from New Jersey. Hello, Apostle. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind today?
How you doing, Mike? And how are you, Claire?
Fine. Well, very
Claire,
well.
hope you had a happy Easter. You too, Mike. I know you're not very religious, but hope everything's going good in Indiana.
Yes.
I'd like to throw something past you. I think that the Democrats had an inside scoop in regards to this pandemic before maybe the Republicans or anybody else. Somebody must have filled them in on this. Because when they were going through their impeachment process, that would give good reason why Pelosi held off on it for a month if it was that important. Because if all the chaos that went on, whatever, when they put it out, it's really going to throw a lot of distractions into the Republican Party and even in the White House in regards to dealing with this impeachment and everything else, and it would have worked in the Democrats' favor.
Yes, you're right.
That makes sense, Mike?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense.
Right, but I think that they had some type of inside scoop on this thing, and they were going to use it to their advantage, but it pretty much backfired on them because it didn't progress as fast as I guess they wanted it to.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. We know that certain elements within our government knew about this at least in November of last year and possibly even earlier than that.
Right, but it never made any sense as to why this was such an emergency to impeach Trump, and she held off on it for a month.
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to throw that past you, Mike.
Well, it's a good point. It's a good point, and a lot of people were wondering why, after all the talk about getting rid of Trump, she held off on the impeachment. I think you're right. I think they knew that the pandemic was coming, and they were going to try and exploit it and just throw so much at the White House couldn't deal with it.
Right. It would have put everybody into chaos, whatever, and it would have worked in the globalist favor and everybody else's,
Okay. Well,
again, Mike, I just wanted to throw that past you, buddy.
All right. Well, thanks a lot for the phone call. We're going to switch over to Tom in Utah. Hello, Tom. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind today?
Hi, Mike. Our governor in Utah just finished a news report, whatever you call it. He announced the fact that we had 4 deaths in Utah this last week. 3 of them were already in hospice on the edge.
Oh.
And the 4th was a diabetic with complications already in ICU. Interesting. So
interesting.
4 deaths, and we have a state that's shut down. People that are dying through desperation and depression. but we're going to stop the state for 4 people that are already on the edge of the precipice. Anyway, just thought I'd better give you that report. So don't move to Utah. It's pretty
No, I
dangerous
wasn't
over
planning on
here.
moving to Utah. I'm ready to hop in the car and drive over to Georgia so I can get a haircut.
Into that.
Yeah, isn't that great?
Okay.
By the way, we have had an unusual die-off over here in Utah. The pig farm owned by the Chinese, all their employees have been sent home, all testing positive or showing signs of the disease, and the pigs too. By the way, nobody ever talks about the trillions of lung tissues that are out there that are the petri dish, reservoir, and vector for the infection. How come we haven't quarantined the pigs?
That's a good point.
Trillions of lungs that are the perfect petri dish.
Well, this is the first
Yet
time I've heard.
nobody ever talks.
This is the first time I've heard of pigs testing positive for COVID-19. Are you sure they're not? They didn't test positive for that other.
Yes, that's what they said. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, and I know that. I worked in that industry.
All right. Well, that is a problem. That's going to complicate the food situation.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Definitely.
All right. Well, Tom,
Well,
thank
quite
you.
quite frankly, Mike, one of the requirements for the pathogens of the respiratory tract, they need to be wrapped in a cholesterol envelope and delivered
Yes.
to your lungs through aspiration. That's the reality. But nobody ever talks about that. We don't want to touch that. That's bad for business. And I get mocked on the other day on this radio when I mentioned the fact that there is a reservoir of disease, and it's far bigger, far heavier, far more expansive, and far more mobile than man is. It flies, it swims, it crawls, it runs, and we move it also as we transport product. Like, for example, the former governor's brother down in southern Utah is growing alfalfa and cattle, and he ships them off to China to be processed and then sent back here. And by the way, the major industry that brings money in Utah now is not copper as in the past. It's pharmaceuticals. I don't know if I mentioned the other day that I sit here with a group of my fellows dealing in pharmaceuticals. They are freaked out because their businesses are collapsed because their supplier is China.
Yes.
And of course, their worry is their product being contaminated in China? That's always been a worry. China is the victim of our corporations. They're just the front man.
They're a willing victim. I mean, that's how they made all their money. That's how they took over being, the world's largest manufacturer.
By the way, do you know Joel Skousen?
The name sounds familiar, but not well. No.
Joel Skousen is an investigator. Lives here in Utah, and he was giving a report on our local radio about the fact that China has become the slave of American business, but he was also reading about a report from a communist leader from about 2015, where he's talking about how they're going to be needing the resources of America, Canada, Australia, I guess New Zealand, other areas. They can't take us over with weapons of war. They can't bomb us. They can't nuke us. But he was talking about the only way we can take and clear America so we can utilize resources is through biowarfare. And of course, he was proposing that they find a way to create a virus that was race specific. In other words, it would not affect the Chinese, but they've never been able to do that.
Yeah,
So
Israel tried to do that as well, and they failed miserably.
Yeah, so they figured out that the only way they could do it is to find a way to get America to take their own poison, so to speak.
Well, I'm still of the opinion that this coronavirus, I mean, as a biological weapon, it's not very effective. And I think it was
No,
an
they're not.
accidental release.
Yeah, none of viruses are going to do what, as we call them, viruses. The pathogens are going to do what nature allows them to do, which they've done since the beginning of time. All we've done in our biological warfare laboratories is identify pathogens in a certain area. Like I mentioned before, we don't want to have the Panama event again. So we send people in, we find out what's endemic to the animals and the environment there. We try to anticipate remedy if we need it. But we, quite frankly, don't have the godlike skills to create a novel virus or a novel bacteria or a novel pathogen. By the way, it's really curious. I was talking with one of my fellows over here, and I said, this really has quite the markings of malaria, Plasmodium malariae.
Yes.
Which actually affects the hemoglobin, disables the hemoglobin, so you can't take up oxygen. And I said, well, I wonder if this is just a clone or a variation of malaria. It's a curiosity. Has anybody done, autopsies on these victims and seen if the liver has been degenerate or disintegrated? Anybody know?
I'm unaware of that, but I imagine autopsies have been done, but I haven't read anything about liver damage. But then I haven't seen any of the autopsy reports, completed. Just, the information's distilled down. That would explain why the hydroxychloroquine works against it.
Exactly. Isn't that curious?
Yes.
Anyway, just a thought. I'll have to bounce it off my fellows if they have the guts to talk to me anymore.
Well, thank you very much for the phone call.
Just don't go around anybody with lungs.
All right, get away. Get away.
I beg your pardon.
Get away.
I don't
Get away.
think so.
All right. All right, Tom, thanks an awful lot. We're going to let you go here because we're getting up to the top of the show, and Claire's got something she wants to share with you. Take it away, Claire.
Okay. I am very uncomfortable about the way that we are bashing China and blaming China for this. And Mike, in the middle of all this, we cannot forget our own history of weaponizing germs and viruses.
Yes.
Now, right after World War II was a very interesting incident. The U.S. hunted down and arrested one General Shiro Ishii, who commanded the Unit 731 in Japanese occupied Manchuria. Now, he conducted a number of horrific experiments on Chinese prisoners, literally locking people in high-pressure chambers, and the eyes would leave, infected his victims with botulism, bubonic plague, syphilis, cholera, smallpox, TB, and a lot of other diseases which had already been vanquished by vaccines, and watched them die. But what does the U.S. military do with this guy? Instead of bringing him to justice at the secret Army bioweapons program at Camp Detrick, they wanted to learn about what he knew and were driven by a sense of urgency that kind of overshadowed whatever moral qualms they might have felt. Now, this is written about in a book called Poisoner in Chief by a gentleman by the last name of Kinzer. Now, what they did was they convinced General Douglas MacArthur to sign a secret decree granting amnesty to Ishii and all who worked with him. He turned over all of this research, which included an untold number of tissue samples taken from people while they were still alive, to the Americans. And here's the guy who is responsible for the dissection of thousands of living prisoners during wartime, as well as those who worked with him. They all escaped punishment.
And we're talking about literally
Holy
cutting people
crud,
apart
yes.
while they're still alive.
Yeah, vivisection.
Yes.
The sunlight reasoning was very likely that the information would be valuable for mounting a defense against enemy germ attacks. But we know from this work that the underworld was experimenting with all kinds of weaponizing of pathogens and dispersing them silently over populations too. Now, they even used the U.S. citizens as guinea pigs because,
and by the way, that's legal.
Yeah.
That is actually a U.S. law that
Yeah.
biological experiments can be carried out on
Yeah.
American citizens
Without their knowledge or
Right.
consent. Now, in this book, scientists from Camp Diedrich used a naval minesweeper off the coast of San Francisco to release allegedly harmless but traceable bacteria, which had a red tint, into the air over San Francisco via large aerosol hoses. After 6 days, they found that some 800,000 residents in the city, as well as people from Oakland, were affected. And over the next 7 weeks, 11 people checked into local hospitals with urinary tract infections and had drops of red in their urine. One guy died.
Okay, we got to take a break for commercials. Back with the last segment of our program. We got a couple of callers waiting on the line. We'll be right back.
It's happening, ladies and gentlemen. We here at RBN are working with Front Sight Firearms Training Institute to bring our audience the best in combat, tactical, and defensive firearms training. Whether you're a private citizen who is new to firearms or you have a concealed weapon permit and want a level of training that surpasses what you've received from your local gun range, Front Sight provides priceless education and skills taught by seasoned law enforcement, military, and private citizen instructors to levels that far exceed law enforcement and military standard. With nearly 1 million responsible citizens trained from every town, city, and state from across the United States, Front Sight has bolstered the Patriot movement to a whole new level. Contact Dan Sutterfield by phone at 573-762-2356 or 573-465-2356 or shoot him an email at domedan, DOMEDAN at hotmail.com. This is a limited time opportunity. Don't miss it.
The reviews for Extendivite are amazing. Here are some from Amazon. By Christine, great for heart palpitations. By Ann, before I started using this product, every afternoon my ankles and my hands would be swollen. That doesn't happen anymore. So if that part of their advertising is true, I have to assume that the rest of it is also. Not to mention that when I had my yearly blood test, only a few weeks after beginning to use this product, my cholesterol had dropped over 30 points. I'm going to continue to take it. By Croc, I love this product. It really works. By Brad, works great, thank you. Tell us your story. Get your Extendivite today. To order, call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
What would you say if I told you we have a new tool that will increase production and lower maintenance costs for your meat processing company? And it would pay for itself in just 6 weeks.
When pigs fly!
The new Ease Off Model Easy 4 replaces old spring-style carcass droppers and is faster, safer, and more reliable. The Ease Off lowers or lifts 1,000 pounds to or from your rail automatically using our remote control.
Sounds expensive. Can I afford it?
Can you afford not to try the Ease Off? It installs fast with just 3 bolts in place of your current dropper. The effortless operation will reduce fatigue and injuries, speed up your line, eliminate downtime, and increase profit.
How can I order my Ease Off?
Go to easeoff.com, EAZEOFF.com, and hurry because we are offering $200 off on the new Easy 4 for a limited time. Easeoff.com. We make pigs fly. Cows too. Ease Off LLC, Summersville, Missouri, 417-932-6419.
When all this twisted steel was swept away, did these remaining holes reveal what's really happened?
Welcome back to our show here. We're going to try and squeeze in 2 more phone calls in this last segment of our program, starting with Frederick in Kentucky. Hello, Frederick. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind today?
Hey, Mike, I wanted to talk about. Do you think cats can really get coronavirus?
Well, they've found several large cats at zoos have tested positive for COVID-19. Of course, if they're using the CDC test, you could find COVID-19 in a park bench. And supposedly some house cats. Supposedly some house cats have also tested positive. I don't think enough work has been done to determine, the animal vectors that are out there. Now, that other caller who was talking about the pigs, that's the first I've heard that pigs were testing positive for COVID-19. I know there is another virus in China that's decimating their pig industry, their pork industry over there, and maybe it made its way over here to the United States, but that's a completely different illness.
Basically, you're saying when pigs fly, that's when cats could catch coronavirus, right?
No, that's not what I'm saying.
What
I'm saying like so much else with COVID-19, we just don't know. And I think they're only just now getting around to finding out what other vectors there might be. I mean, everyone got focused on human transmission, and now they're talking about it could be your household pet.
I know, right? That's terrible. So what's the next step? Do you think they're really going to be like, well, you need to get rid of your cats, kill your cats or your dogs, or?
Well, no, you're going to see a demand by the public that whatever cure they come up with for coronavirus, be given to veterinarians as well as to regular doctors.
No, I mean, but that would be like a real big, like a huge red line in the sand if they're saying that all of a sudden.
I agree.
Like you got to kill your cats or dogs, to stop the virus, even in your own home. And then, that just doesn't make sense. So do you really believe that some lions at the zoo have coronavirus, Mike?
Well, I think it was a tiger was the specific cat that tested positive. Anyway, Frederick, we're going to let you go and try and squeeze Chuck from New Jersey in before the end of the show. Chuck, what's on your mind?
Hey, happy Friday, Mike. I'm not sure if your show of it, but have you heard of the Bill Gates Microsoft cryptocurrency system patent that was put into place last June 2019?
Yeah, I understand they're trying to come up with their own digital currency here, along with all the vaccines and everything that they've got there. By the way, if you're using the Chrome web browser, you need to update it immediately. Somebody's found another exploit in there that's out in the wild.
Roger. Are you aware that this new patent is going to use body temperature, brainwave activity to monitor set of individuals that are using the cryptocurrency?
Now that I hadn't heard about. I mean, what happens if you're running a fever?
I don't know, Mike, but if you type in on YouTube or the internet W02020060606, it will come up, and it's quite startling, to say the least.
All right, Chuck, we got to let you go. There's the music. It's time to end our program on this Powhana Friday. Stay tuned for John Stedmiller. I'm sure he's got lots of interesting things to share with you. Please spread the word of RBN. Please spread the word of whatreallyhappened.com. Please donate. We do need your help to stay on the air. We'll be back on Monday. Have a great weekend. Aloha, America.